It's 1995. Netscape is released. It's 2 years before the founding of Google. I spend a month in Florence, Italy. Great month looking at the best art in the world and eating really good food and walking a ton, getting super tan. While I was there, I was watching the OJ trial. And speaking of assassins, Robin Hobbs creates Assassin's Apprentice. It's released in 1995. Comes out. It's obviously not the illustrated version, but we'll talk about that coming up. And this has been now 30 years. It's one of the seminal works in fantasy. You talk about the Farseer trilogy. People love this series. But at that point, I had been reading a lot of legal thrillers. I've been reading maybe some sci-fi and just didn't get to it. And so now I'm coming back 30 years later. And what we're going to do is we're going to do a reaction, not really a review. I'm not going to do like the normal, this happens at this point, and this is the themes going on. You know, that's been done. That's 30 years old, and it's been loved. And so I'm just going to go, hey, how does it work for somebody who reads a lot of fantasy, but never had read it? Does it still hold up? What's it feel like? And we're going to do all that after the intro. Hey, I'm Michael. Welcome back to the Book Dormer. Again, what we're doing here is a review. So we're going to be looking at a book that's 30 years old. Right? It's Assassin's Apprentice, the first of the Farseer trilogy. And the first of a humongous tie-in world that she has. There is a lot of books from Robin Hobbs in this series. And somehow I missed them. And then after a while, once you've missed things for a while, you look back and go, there's so many. I don't know if I want to do these. But then I decided, yes, actually, I wanted to do this. Enough people whose opinions I like and seem to like similar books said, read this, that I went, all right, I'll give it a crack. Again, we're not going to do it as a review. I don't want to break down every character and talk about their growth arcs and what's going on with them. Let's just talk about it from somebody who's reading it for enjoyment. What happens? Who do I like? What do I wish they did? What do I hope for in the next books? That might be a good combination of them. All right, so first off, this book, it's slow. I'm going to call it out. It is a slow read. Doesn't mean it's bad. It just means I didn't wake up and go, wow, I need the next chapter right now. I would get up, I'd read a chapter before I teach online. So before I teach, I'd read a chapter. And it was a little bit of work. This one took, I was reading this along with something else, but it took a couple weeks. A little bit longer than I thought it would. Especially given that it's only 400 pages. Like that's not a huge book. But every so often a book will do that to me where I'm enjoying it, but it doesn't drag me to that next chapter. Or it's a little slow to build. And this is a little slow to build. And I think that might be a little bit to do with the era. Like I think if it was written now, like in the 2020s, I think you would see it get to the point faster. Probably have a little more action early. Maybe a little more payoff with some of the pieces. But this book, by its nature, isn't meant to have that. I mean, you want to talk about a reaction. What's the reaction of this? Melancholy, but enjoyable. It is slower. We have a lot of slice of life. We are seeing the main character, Fitz. That's not even his name. He didn't know his name. He was 6 and didn't have a name. Go figure. Apparently they just called him Boy. So he gets assigned Fitz as a name and just decides to keep that moniker instead of going after another. And Fitz is the bastard child of Chivalry Farseer. Again, it's the Farseer trilogy. So this is going after the Farseer family. And Fitz is the bastard child. At 6, his paternal grandfather drops him off with a group of soldiers and said, you're soldiers from blah, blah, the Empire. Yeah, he's your problem now, not mine. And they all look at him and one of them goes, yeah, that looks like chivalry. And so Chivalry's man, Burrish, is there, takes him in. Didn't realize he had a bastard child. Takes Fitz in. He's a bachelor. And what a horrible, horrible choice. Like a early, I'm guessing 30s bachelor, doesn't, never had any real experience around kids. He is the stable master. That's really his job, but he was also Chivalry's man, as they would call it. So it seems like in this world, you get assigned, like if you're Chivalry's man, chivalry rises, you rise. Because of Fitz, Chivalry, who is heir to the throne, married to Lady Patience, who he apparently loves to death, abdicates, gives up his position, Well, there's Burrich, who's now got the kid, and Burrich's social status starts doing that. Oh, yeah. So anytime this kid showed up, trashes Burrich's life, and Burrich is now still responsible for keeping him. Hey, enjoy your life, buddy. That's how this book kind of feels. There's a lot of these like, oh man, that is rough. Fitz starts off as this young kid. Burrich is busy. Burrich doesn't know what he's doing. Gets him back to the capital. Barely sees the kid. Just gives him some assignments to do at the barn because the kid's really good with animals. Turns out he's too good with animals because he has one of the two types of magic. You have wit and you have skill. Wit is like an inherent or an innate capability. And his is he just can bond with the animals. The animals all like him. They'll do what he asks. He'll take care of them too. Like he is not just a domineer. He makes friends. And they, super loyal to him. And then you've got skill, which is more of a learned thing that we'll see later. And that's very restricted on who can do this. Like this is dangerous to have that skill. And Burrich, I think for his part, really didn't want Fitz to touch any of it. I think he was like, no, this is bad for you. This is going to cause you pain, cause you problems. And tries to just keep him out of the limelight, even though they're at the capital, which is kind of problematic if you want to keep away from, the people in the castle. Fitz runs around, spends a lot of his time just kind of raising himself. There is a lot, and I mean a lot, of slice of life about Fitz. He spends the summer just running down with the street urchins. He just came up to him and asked if he could join in. And they're like, yeah. They don't know him any better, and he's a kid from the stables. So they know he lives up at the castle area, but they don't know who he is. Fitz barely knows who he is. Which is kind of sad. This is back to that melancholy, like there's one of the girls there. Oh, real fast. Spoilers are free. This is 30 years old. I'm going to talk about some things, and if you don't want to know about them, I will put a note on early in the video just so I don't forget it, so that you should have been pre-noticed. So there's a girl in that group he becomes good friends with. She grows older as he grows up and starts doing, other tasks. We'll get to what tasks he gets assigned. But as he grows up, he definitely likes her, but he doesn't like her. And she likes him like that. It turns out she's super pretty. She's wanting to play. She's a little older. She wants to go that route. He doesn't. Way to screw that one up, Fitz. Look, Robin Hobbs, if I wanted to live and watch about romantic disappointment from a young fella, I can just remember what I was like. Yeah, I don't need to. Yeah, okay. I say that. Obviously, anyone who's watched the channel knows I've got great kids and a great wife. But it took a while to get to that point. So hopefully Fitz will go down that path at some point. But I'm assuming just from the way this is going that I don't think Fitz is going to have a happy ending and a happy life. I kind of expect it to go kind of rough. For instance, he's the son of the heir to the throne. And because of him, the heir to the throne, who was super popular, quits, leaves his position, ends up dying under mysterious circumstances. Fitz never even gets to meet the guy. But people are upset with Fitz because of this. So there is definitely resentment. Whether or not there's open hostility, there's definitely resentment. There is a lot of open hostility because Fitz is a bastard. And kind of interesting, this 1995, what other book came out in the mid-90s that featured a bastard? Yeah, Game of Thrones, right? Song of Ice and Fire. I get the distinct feeling the timing on these, they were written separately with neither knowing about the other. Because I think they came out either really close to each other. And books are not written on the fly. They're definitely got a year or two lead time going in. So it's interesting that they both had kind of the same, Tyrion Lannister and Fitz. Slightly different how they act, but yet Fitz is going to become an assassin. So they actually do have some parts. And they're both very likable characters. Now, at least on the TV show, right? We all like the character in Game of Thrones. Fitz is likable, but yet more on the sad. Like, he is definitely more of a passive character early on. It's first person, and maybe that makes him seem more passive, because as a young fella who's always around people who are more powerful or higher station, you're probably not going to get to argue a lot and go do the, the protagonist thing. And I think if it was written today, we would probably see a little bit more protagonist style. I suspect it'd be a little bit more when you look and go, why are you doing this dumb move and not just being happy? I think we'd see a little bit more of that. So Fitz kind of settles into a decent life and then gets noticed by the king. All right, he's a bastard. With his dad was the heir to the throne. This can cause problems in like that medieval-ish type setting where he would be potentially have a claim. Certainly it's not the best claim, but I mean, look at history. A lot of times people won with not the greatest claims, but an outside claim, and they still won off it. So this might lead to some of the issues with the current family. You have Prince Verity, who is actually nice. He's the younger brother of Chivalry. And then you have the half-brother, Prince Regal. Prince Regal hates Fitz, wants him gone, has made no bones about it. It's pretty darn obvious Regal does not want Fitz around. He would probably kill him if he could. The Chivalry's old mom, so Fitz's mom, Lady Patience, returns. And Patience is why Chivalry gave up the throne, gave up his slot, was because he didn't want to take off his wife. Well, then the wife feels kind of bad about it, and she sees definitely Chivalry and Fitz. Apparently they're supposed to look just alike. So that she then starts lobbying in favor of Fitz and just nagging the daylights out of King Shrewd until King Shrewd gives in and says, all right, fine, we'll teach him the skill. The skill is very restricted on who can get it, but they have a push to get more people into the skill because there are these raiders that are coming, the Red Ship Raiders, that are coming and doing, I don't know, some sort of voodoo magic against the peoples and trashing them. It's a little confusing. But the people that Fitz are learning from don't know what's happening. They just know, like, there's pay us or we return the people we took from you. If you pay, we go ahead and kill them for you. If you don't, they're going to be returned and they're going to be so mentally damaged and messed up that you might want to kill them yourself. And that's really kind of where one of the things that Fitz gets into. Because Fitz, when Shrewd decides he's going to use them, doesn't just say, well, all right, I'll use them as like a messenger or maybe like a minor diplomat. Nope. Instead, he decides to have the royal assassin, the head of security, or whatever you want to call him, Shade. And I did not hear how it was pronounced, Chade. I'm calling him Shade because it kind of goes with the whole, shadow thing. And you've got Prince Regal and Prince Verity and, Prince Chivalry and Lady Patience and King Shrewd. You got all these, definitely those kind of, fairy tale-ish names. So I'm going to call him Shade just because it kind of fits, right? The guy behind the scenes in the dark who's teaching our boy Fitz how to be an assassin. And they start doing tasks. And then eventually the tasks lead to things like distributing, having food and getting chased by these people who were returned from the Red Ship Raiders, who a lot of them went into banditry or just attacking, have them chase him and eat his food, which has been poisoned. So he's got a body count going as we go along this. And it's sad. It's not like he's got a choice. As Shade tells him, look, you agreed to be a king's man. That means you become the king's man. You don't get to question the orders. The order says, go deliver this message, you deliver it. It says, go mess this group up, you go mess them up. That's what Fitz's job is. And that's how he's going to live, is he's going to make himself useful to the king. He also, of course, has a lot of worry going on because the king's old and Prince Verity is very busy. So busy that this dude won't even go look for a wife. They're like, hey, Chivalry's out, he's dead. You need to go get a wife and make some royal heirs. And he's so busy fighting off, he's using the skill to fight off the Red Ship Raiders that he doesn't do it. Yeah, weird take. Regal, who would be next in line, he, the half-brother, hates Fitz and would probably just kill him right off the bat. Right? He is definitely a piece of work. And he's negotiating. They're going to go, he found a wife. They're going to bring Fitz there, and Fitz is assigned to come in there and kill the brother of the girl that's going to get married so that it would up the prestige of their kingdom. Because they would have somebody with a claim to the throne then. Prince Regal, I warned spoilers, Prince Regal sets Fitz up and tries to kill Fitz himself. So Fitz was at least prepared for it enough that it just went through a very painful thing. Like this is Fitz's life. Everything you get pained. Everything's set up. Everything has at least one opponent, if not three. There's always limits on what Fitz is going to do. And so it is a little melancholy there. Like he meets somebody, he's like, I like this guy. This guy's a good person. I could be friends with him. Naturally, that means that dude's going to die. Now, Verity, at least Verity so far hasn't been killed, but he's working really hard. Fitz can help him on things. Now, find out that Fitz does have the quality of the skill. It runs in the family. Oh, speaking of that, because of those Red Ship Raiders, the skill. So you got these raiders coming, so they're going to need to use the magic. And this is a weird type of magic. This isn't like, fireballs, and lightning bolts. No, this is much more of the, I'm going to reach out and find the mind of the person who's a commander who has doubts and put more doubts in their brain. Or I'm going to try to talk the navigator and try to trick him into banking early into the reef. Things like this, these minor changes. Now, on a ship, I mean, yeah, you put them on a ship aground, and yeah, now that's pretty easy to fight them, right? As opposed to when they can just hit anywhere down your coast, and you've got to be ready everywhere. And there's a lot of those battles going on with they try to find everywhere. We find Fitz is pretty good at popping little thoughts into people's brains and helping them out a little bit. So Fitz is pretty good with the whole plant an earworm in, like, you should do this. This would make you a hero. And then he runs off, and then later the prince goes, I'll do this. I'll be a hero. That's kind of the Fitz level, which is nice. I mean, it's neat to see as Fitz kind of grows older in this, because he's up to a teen, but he's not a full adult, but he's definitely up far enough that he can do some things by the time this first round of the book wraps up. It definitely goes a little rough. Again, melancholy. My thought, it's an interesting read. It's an interesting story. I'm glad I read it. I'll probably next year read part 2. Which, unfortunately, they get chunky. They get back to chunky. And I read a lot of chunky books, but I don't read a lot of slow chunky books. So it'll be interesting to see. That'll be a little bit of a challenge for me. I'll probably do it outside the bingo time frames, just so I don't feel bad about reading one book that month or 2 books. I gave it 4 stars. I don't think it deserves 5. I don't think enough's going on to really match up with the top level of the fantasy books I've been reading lately. But it's certainly a worthy book. So it's well worth reading. I did it. Feel free, if you've never tried it, give it a crack. And if you do, I would recommend these. Again, these are the illustrated editions. Check these out. There's a lot of nice illustrations mixed in, which helps because you sometimes get a feel for what's going on in the story. You can see pictures. There's like meet characters and get kind of a feel for how they are. It's also good that every chapter is colored. So as you're moving along, because these are fairly large chapters, right? That's more of that 90s 25 pages a chapter style work, which sometimes some people love it. So I've gotten used to the fasters, right? Because I read a lot of thrillers and a lot of those fantasies that go with a lot of chapters. So it's interesting to kind of move between those types. I went after it. Again, 4 stars. Don't think it's gonna get a 5. Maybe the series, and I've seen other people say this is their take, that the series is better than the parts. All right, fair enough. Hopefully we'll get to that. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.